صباح الخير. Good morning. I would like to welcome everyone to a very, for me, emotional and dear event, the closing meeting for the Shri project that has been going on for the past 10 years. And it's an end of a journey on this project, but I'm sure it could be and it should be the beginning of another journey. أحب أرحب بكم، سعيدة جدا إنكم شرفتونا النهاردة في نهاية رحلة مع Sustainable Recycling Industries، المشروع الفندد من الحكومة السويسرية اللي بقالنا شغالين عليه 10 سنين وممكن تكون نهاية، بس I'm sure إن هي إن شاء الله تبقى بداية لمشاريع وحاجات أكتر في مجال الإي ويست وتدوير المخلفات الإلكترونية. المودريتور of this opening session دكتور حسام علام، وهسيب له المايك I'll give up my mic to Dr. Hussam Allam, who is going to be the moderator for the opening session.
شكرا غيدا. Good morning, everyone. Of course, we'd like to welcome Mr. Yasser Abdullah, CEO of Waste Management Authority, Mr. Engineer Mahmoud Badawi, the Deputy Minister for Digital Transformation, Minister of Communication and Information Technology, and of course, our dear friend from Switzerland, Mr. Bernard Soulan, Deputy Head of Cooperation at the Embassy of Switzerland. This is the start of the closing meeting of Shri. Of course, what has been done in Shri will continue its effect in Switzerland and Egypt. But before starting anything, I just would like to give a message to our Swiss friends that in Egypt, whenever there's any person cooperating with Egypt, we never forget them. And I'll give you just an example. Please have your headsets. This is Evelyn from Tunis village. You need to have your headset because the translation will, it's in Arabic. Yeah.
الفخار اللي غيرت البلد. الغريب اني مش اللوكندات ومش السياحه، الفخار اللي غيرت البلد. اتعلمت في سويسرا وفي الشؤون الاجتماعيه قالوا لي ما تعلميهم، ساعدوني في البنى وفتحنا المدرسه. انا جيت هنا عشان اصحابي قالوا لي على المكان وانبسطت من المكان قوي قوي قوي، بس كله ده خد وقت كتير يعني. من 79 كده موجودين هنا على طول، والمشروع نجح عشان انا كنت موجوده على طول. ومش انا بس، يعني اصحابي ساعدوني قوي. جوزي عامل الافران وساعدنا كتير قوي. جوزي مهم بس ما بيحبش يقعد في التلفزيون وكده. ما مبسوطه هنا، الطبيعه حلوه قوي والناس طيبين برضه. اتعلمت بقى، ولما جيت من 30 سنة ما اتكلمش، اقعد خرصة طول الوقت. عجينة العيش زي عجينة الفخار، وزي ما عندهم تينة بيلعبوا بالتينة وهم صغيرين وكده، يعني ده بيخليهم شاطرين طبعا. بس التلقائية بتاعتهم حلوة في الرسم وفي الحاجات دي. بحب شغلهم قوي. أثروا يعني، بيعملوا حاجات أنا ما كنتش هعرف أعملهم زيهم، وهم مش عارفين يعملوا زيي يعني. خليتهم يوروا شخصيتهم هم، مش شخصيتي أنا عملت معرض في سويسرا وفي فرنسا، والناس كانت مبسوطة منهم. آخر واحد كان في مارس اللي فات، كان في جنيف. الناس كانت مبسوطة جدا جدا من شغل الأولاد.
So we hope, as Evelyn did, she put Tunis Village worldwide village now for poetry. And actually, it was very interesting in the COP when we had Matthias with us, and we met at the exhibition at the COP one of her students. So we hope, as Evelyn did, Tashri will do, that we'll have Egypt as a major player for e-waste recycling in the region. We'll start, of course, by Mr. Yasra Abdallah, the CEO of Waste Management Authority. The floor is yours.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. شكرا دكتور حسام، شكرا سيداري، شكرا الحكومة السويسرية على المشروع الخاص بالمخلفات الإلكترونية والمخرجات الخاصة بالمشروع. يمكن هعرض بس مجموعة التحديات اللي واجهت جمهورية مصر العربية في منظومة إدارة المخلفات بصفة عامة خلال الفترات السابقة. يمكن قبل ما أعرض التحديات اللي واجهت منظومة إدارة المخلفات، حابب أوضح بس المخلفات الإلكترونية ومع التقدم التكنولوجي لدول العالم بأسره زادت كمية المخلفات الإلكترونية. المخلفات الإلكترونية دي تحتوي على مواد ضارة يجب إدارتها والتعامل معها بشكل سليم. بجانب المواد الخطرة يوجد بها بعض المعادن الثمينة زي الذهب والنحاس والفضة. الدولة برضو والقطاع الخاص بيعيد استخدامه وإعادة تدويره بالشكل الأمثل. دي كل الضوابط والإجراءات فيما يخص المخلفات الإلكترونية اللي الدولة على أساسها وضعت إطار تشريعي لمنظومة إدارة المخلفات في مصر. فيما يخص المخلفات الإلكترونية تم وضع تعريف للمخلفات الإلكترونية في مصر. التعريف ده وضح المخلفات الإلكترونية إنها مخلفات خطرة بشروط. أيضا وضح كل العاملين في منظومة إدارة المخلفات الإلكترونية لازم يحصل على ترخيص مزاولة مهنة. الترخيص ده على أساسه بنضمن عملية إدارة المخلفات الإلكترونية بالشكل السليم. بالتوازي أول مرة يتم وضع في تشريع داخل جمهورية مصر العربية أحد المبادئ الخاصة بالمسؤولية الممتدة للمنتج، والمبدأ ده اشتغلنا فيه بالتعاون مع سيداري. المبدأ ده بيدعم المصنعين وجامعي المخلفات في تشجيعهم في عملية التجميع وتشجيعهم في عملية التدوير بالإدارة السليمة. يمكن بشكرهم على المسودة اللي طلعوا لنا بيها، وإن شاء الله إحنا بنكمل في الإطار الخاص بتنفيذ المسؤولية الممتدة للمنتج. ومن ضمن الأخبار الكويسة إن الدولة المصرية إن شاء الله في إطار عملية التنفيذ، وإن شاء الله هنعرض القرار على دولة رئيس مجلس الوزراء خلال الفترات القادمة بحيث يتم صدور القرار ده للنور. القرار ده هيضمن آلية لجميع المخلفات الإلكترونية، هيضمن آلية للشركات القائمة على عملية تدوير المخلفات الإلكترونية. طبعا القرار ده بيتم إعداده بالتنسيق مع وزارة الاتصالات ووزارة الصناعة بحيث أن يتم صدوره خلال الفترة القادمة. القرار ده إن شاء الله مش يخص المخلفات الإلكترونية بس، إحنا بالتوازي بنشتغل على كافة أنواع المخلفات. يمكن من حوالي شهر صدر عندنا أول قرار للمسؤولية الممتدة للمنتج فيما يخص البلاستيك أو السنجل يوز بلاستيك. القرار ده هيضمن عملية الحد من استخدام البلاستيك، السياسة اللي بتتبناها جمهورية مصر العربية وفقا للسياسات العالمية في عملية الحد من استخدام البلاستيك. ده الإطار اللي الدولة إن شاء الله شغالة على أساسه في تطوير منظومة إدارة المخلفات. مش عايزة أطول على حضراتكم وأسيب زملائي إن شاء الله لباقي العرض، وبشكر حضراتكم مرة تانية.
Mr. Bernard Souland, Deputy Head of Cooperation, Embassy of Switzerland.
Engineer Mahmoud Badawi, Deputy Minister for Digital Transformation, Ministry of Communications and Information Technology. Mr. Yasser Abdallah, Chief Executive Officer of the Waste Management Authority of the Ministry of Environment. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pride that we gather today to mark the successful completion of the Sustainable Recycling Industries project. This collaboration between the Ministry of Communication and Information Technology and the Swiss State Secretariat for Economic Affairs, SECO, has played a key role in strengthening Egypt's e-waste recycling industry and promoting sustainable practices. Switzerland has long been a pioneer in e-waste management. In 1994, key industry players launched a voluntary take-back scheme in Switzerland, setting a global precedent for responsible disposal. This proactive approach allowed producers to create an efficient system and influence legislation to ensure practicality and effectiveness. As we celebrate today, we reflect on the remarkable progress of the SHRI program in advancing policy, industry capacity, and technological innovation in Egypt. The project, which is a global initiative and spans multiple countries, Egypt, Ghana, Peru, Colombia, and South Africa, has achieved significant results in Egypt. These include establishing a regulatory framework under the waste law, advancing extended producer responsibility, institutionalizing the SHRI training curriculum at schools, and fostering industry collaboration through initiatives such as Eco-Green Waste Management. In addition, strategies for sustainable management are refined through feasibility studies on hazardous e-waste fractions. Beyond regulatory and industry advancements, the project has contributed positively to both the environment and the economy, from improving recycling processes and promoting community engagement to implementing sustainable solutions. This journey would not have been possible without the dedication, hard work, and commitment of all stakeholders involved. This event is not just about marking the conclusion of a project, but about celebrating our collective efforts and reaffirming our commitment to a greener future. I extend my deepest gratitude to our Egyptian and international partners for their invaluable contributions. The Ministry of Communication and Information Technology, the Ministry of Environment, the Center for Environment and Development for the Arab region and Europe, the Swiss Federal Laboratories for Materials Science and Technologies, EMPA, the World Resources Forum, and DSS+. Your expertise and collaboration have been instrumental in achieving these successes. Thank you for being part of this important occasion, and welcome to this celebration of progress and sustainability.
مهندس محمود بدوي، نائب وزير الاتصالات للتحول الرقمي ورئيس لجنة التسيير للمشروع. هو طبعا يعني جه قريب، فالحاجات كلها لسه يعني نشاط كتير اتعمل، فشكرا لمجهودك معانا الفترة اللي فاتت دي كلها. اتفضل.
Ladies and gentlemen, honorable colleagues and esteemed partners and distinguished guests, it is with immense pride and profound sense of duty that I stand before you today to celebrate the successful closure of the e-waste management project in Egypt. This initiative has not only marked a significant achievement in our commitment to environmental sustainability, but also played a crucial role in advancing our Egyptian vision for 2030. As we gather on to reflect on the outcomes of this project, we recognize its vital alignment with our national strategy for digital transformation. In a world where technology continuously evolves, the management of electronic waste has become imperative. This project has exemplified how we can manage e-waste effectively, contributing to sustainability, innovation, and economic growth. One of the main achievements of the Egyptian-Swiss cooperation through the SHRI project was the advancement and strengthening of technical education related to circularity. By institutionalizing the e-waste management curriculum, we have equipped skilled ICT vocational personnel, ensuring a sustainable and efficient e-waste management system. This effort is in line with our national and international commitments to promote a circular economy across various sectors. Today, I would like to highlight some key achievements that have emerged from this initiative. From policy achievement standpoint, the finalization of the approval of legal guidelines for e-waste management under the Egypt Waste Law 202 for 2020, establishing a structured approach to e-waste regulation. The second achievement, the development and verification of the EPR fee calculation model, forming the basis for the Ministry of Environment's decision on financial mechanisms for e-waste management. A second set of achievements in the normative achievements. The establishment of training of the trainers programs, successfully training 26 government staff and private sector consultants, and discussions on setting up conformity assessment body. Also, the establishment of a trainer programs for WE schools, professors across all branches nationwide, ensuring the transfer of knowledge and building of skilled workforce in this vital industry. The conduction of a pilot audits to test the effectiveness of new normative requirements and digital audit tools. Finally, specialized conformity assessments of the Egyptian WEEE treatments facilities highlights the gaps of environment impact reduction and compliance. One of also the business achievements, the institutionalization of SHRI training curriculum at WE for applied technology with hands-on training set for full implementation in September 2024. Also the launch of El Khorda 2 incubation program, engaging 62 participants in the electronics reuse and recycling, leading the establishment of 3 startups. Also the establishment of Eco Green Waste Management, a non-profit organization uniting all authorized e-waste recyclers in Egypt. As we reflect on these achievements, we must also recognize the importance of capacity building in this project. We have engaged with local communities, providing training resources to empower individuals and create skilled job opportunities. Every person trained, every skill developed drives us closer to a sustainable future. Moreover, the success of this project highlights the necessity of public awareness and community engagement. We have witnessed the transformative power of informed citizens, advocating for sustainable practices, instilling a sense of collective responsibility towards our environment. As we look to the future, let us continue to embrace innovation and collaboration in our pursuit of a circular economy. By utilizing and uniting our efforts, government, industry, and civil society, we can ensure that our digital transformation is efficient, sustainable, and inclusive. In closing, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to all those who have contributed to the success of this project. Your dedication and hard work have made a significant impact on our journey towards a sustainable Egypt. Together, let us strive to create a future where technology serves as a catalyst for environmental conversations and economical resilience, ensuring a better quality of life for all of our citizens and constituents. And thank you so much for attending today, and looking forward for future success together, inshallah. Thank you.
والحقيقه احنا طبعا بنوجه شكر خاص لوزاره الاتصالات. طبعا وزاره الاتصالات هي ممثل الدوله المصريه في المشروع السويسري، والحقيقه من ساعه ما ابتدينا اعتقد ان يعني المشروع المصري اعتقد هيتكلم الناس من WRF بعد كده قد ايه هو كان من الامثله الناجحه لسويسرا في مصر. فنرجو يعني ايصال رساله شكر لوزير الاتصالات المهندس عمرو طلعت بالشكر لكل المجهودات اللي اتعملت من وزاره الاتصالات لجعل هذا المشروع علامه مضيئه في التعاون ما بين مصر وسويسرا.
البداية الطبيعية إن إحنا نتعرف عليكم، هبتدي بيميني، معلش مش هينفع ابتدي بشمالي. يا ريت كل حد بس يعرف اسمه والانتيتي اللي هو منها عشان نبقى كلنا عارفين بعض.
Andreas Bill, part of the ASRI program representing EMPA.
في مايك ثانية بليز.
صباح الخير، سلمى نوح، بروجرام كوردينيتور سداري.
أنا حسام علام، مدير إقليمي لبرنامج النمو المستدام في التداري.
Bernard Solang, Deputy Head of Cooperation at the Swiss Embassy in Egypt.
من رضوان، كبير مدير المشروعات بسفارة سويسرا بالقاهرة.
رشا بهاء، شركة وي، مديرة مشروع مدارس وي.
أحمد حسين، مدير عام شركة وي المسؤولية المجتمعية.
نجلاء نصير، advisor to وي CEO.
نيفين توفيق، expert in international relations and policy، وزارة الاتصالات وتكنولوجيا المعلومات.
شيرين غريب، وزارة المالية.
ياسمين الشرقاوي، مدير مشروعات وزارة الاتصالات.
شيماء السيد، جهاز تنظيم إدارة المخلفات وزارة البيئة.
كاترين الطويل كوست، co-founder of Kendaka Upcycles.
صباح الخير، شريهان بخيت، Head of Public Policy Decode Consulting.
صباح الخير، دينا الجرف، باحث اقتصادي بقطاع التعاون الأوروبي، وزارة التخطيط والتنمية الاقتصادية والتعاون الدولي.
داليا صادق، معاون وزارة التخطيط والتنمية الاقتصادية والتعاون الدولي.
جيهان عادل، عضو مجلس إدارة شركة الفردوس ريسايكل.
مهندس عادل عريف، شركة الفردوس ريسايكل.
أحمد سالم، رئيس مجلس إدارة جمعية إيكو جرين ويست مانجمنت.
محمود طلعت، المدير الإداري جمعية إيكو جرين ويست مانجمنت.
دكتور ولاء عكاشة، بزنس ديفلوبمنت كونسلتنت.
دكتورة داليا صقر، فاوندر وسي او لشركة شفتيرا للاستشارات.
مؤمن عادل، شفتيرا للاستشارات.
دكتور وليد درويش، رئيس قطاع المركزي للتنمية المجتمعية والبشرية بجهاز تنمية المشروعات مسميدة.
إيهاب السقا، رئيس شعبة تدوير مخلفات اتحاد الصناعات.
أنا ترنيمة عشوش، Environment Program Analyst من UNDP Egypt Country Office.
Margot Plassard, Environmental Analyst at UNDP Egypt.
دكتور محمود بكر، مدير تحرير الأهرام ورئيس مجلس إدارة جمعية كتاب البيئة والتنمية.
نجوى طنطاوي، عضو مجلس إدارة جمعية كتاب البيئة ومدير تحرير جريدة المشهد.
شيرين سامي، عضو مجلس كتاب البيئة ورئيس تحرير النخبة ونائب رئيس تحرير العالم اليوم.
هند سعيد، مسؤول ملف البيئة بوكالة أنباء الشرق الأوسط وعضو مجلس إدارة جمعية كتاب البيئة والتنمية.
محمد عبد الخالق، رئيس مجلس إدارة فردوس ريسايكل.
محمد شريف، تكنيكال مانجر انفي جلوب كونسلتنت.
فتحية سليمان، رئيس انفي جلوب انفيرمنتال كونسلتنت.
مهندس علي الشريعي، نائب رئيس مجلس إدارة شركة ديكود كونسلتنج.
مهندس محمود فوزي الغرياني، وزارة الاتصالات، مدير عام إدارة الجودة للمشروعات الهندسية ورئيس فريق الاستدامة بالوزارة.
Alexandra Lapat, Sustainable Development Counselor at the French Embassy.
شيرين علي، Waste Management Advisor في GIZ.
دكتور سارة المقدم، Head of Growth at Greece.
يوسف يونس بروجرام سبيشالست سيداري.
المهندس أحمد يوسف مدير شركة تريبري.
يوسف من بطريتي.
يمنى أيمن Senior Market Researcher and the Entrepreneurship Program Coordinator Guiders Council.
سارة رشوان Operation Manager Guider Consult.
هالة توبجي Business Auditor and the Governance Program Coordinator Guiders Consult.
شكرا، شرفتونا بجد بحضوركم. Thank you so much and welcome and we're honored that we have you with us today. قبل ما أكمل presentation وكلام قلنا نديكوا نبذة عن حياة شري فيديو اتعمل to document this journey. فسمير ممكن نبتدي؟
مصر بتكبر جامد جدا في التحول الرقمي، احتياجنا للأجهزة بيزيد.
كمية المخلفات الإلكترونية اللي موجودة كبيرة. المفروض في مصر بس معدل تولد المخلفات الإلكترونية بتتراوح من 66 ل 73 ألف طن في السنة.
لو ما عملناش تخلص آمن للأجهزة ديت هتبقى عبء على البيئة وهتبقى عبء على المواطن وعلى صحته.
فده بيستدعي إن أنا أديرها بطريقة سليمة، ولازم آخد في اعتباري أو أحط كل الأدلة الإرشادية لكل طرق التعامل معاها، بداية من الجمع، أجمع إزاي، أخزن إزاي، أعيد تدويرها إزاي، أتخلص نهائي آمن من المخلفات الخطرة أو الأجزاء الخطرة اللي موجودة فيها إزاي.
فكان لازم نفكر في ما يسمى بنهاية المكنة دي لما نتخلص منها نهائياً. فكان لازم التخلص ده يبقى آمن.
Egypt is a priority country of SECO's Economic Development Cooperation. SECO is active in Egypt in all its areas of technical expertise, ranging from macroeconomic and private sector support to infrastructure financing, trade promotion, and more recently, urban development. In this context, Switzerland has been supporting Egypt in setting up an e-waste management system through the Sustainable Recycling Industries project since 2015. This project provides technical assistance for the various pillars of the system, such as the legislative and the standards part that need to be in place for e-waste to be properly recycled.
This project addresses the e-waste management and the recycling industries in order to manage and operate and recycle e-waste in a healthy environmental manner, yet generating income.
مشروع ابتدى في 2011 كانت بداياته، وكان أهم حاجة فيه هو بيهدف إلى إنشاء صناعة لتدوير المخلفات الإلكترونية والكهربائية على مستوى العالم. إحنا في مصر ركزنا على المخلفات الإلكترونية، وكان من بدايتنا خالص إن إحنا نحدد إيه اللي ممكن يتعمل في مصر ومصر محتاجة إيه. ده كانت أول نشاط ليه.
The program is about helping other countries make favorable framework conditions for the recycling of electronic waste, mainly in Ghana, Egypt, South Africa, Colombia, and Peru. From EMPA side, we're mainly supporting technical aspects.
اعتمدنا على الخبرة السويسرية واعتمدنا على خبرة شركائنا في العمل في مصر عشان نبتدي نبني الكفاءات والقدرات والمهارات الخاصة بذلك.
In Switzerland, I was able to gain a lot of experience in auditing recycling companies, and I was also involved in the review of some e-waste regulation in Switzerland, and I'm very happy that I can bring this experience to Egypt and do some capacity building on conformity assessments and e-waste audits, and also to help and advise on the development of the EPR system in Egypt.
طبعا سويسرا معروفة أن هي من الدول الرائدة في مجال التعامل الآمن وإدارة المخلفات الإلكترونية، وده كان النقطة الرئيسية إن إحنا إزاي نقدر نتعاون مع أحسن دولة عندها هذا المجال. والحقيقة جمهورية مصر العربية ممثلة في وزارة البيئة والوزارات الأخرى، وزارة الاتصالات وتكنولوجيا المعلومات كانوا الحقيقه واعيين جدا لهذا الموضوع، والحقيقه تم تغيير القانون الذي يتعامل مع المخلفات كامله، وتم اصدار قانون في مصر لاداره المخلفات في 2020، وتم ادراج المخلفات الالكترونيه انها مخلفات خطره بشروط، وده سمح للقطاع الخاص انه يقدر يستثمر في هذا المجال.
One very important impact, I think, is the development of laws and regulations. When we started, there were almost no laws on e-waste. Now we have a law, we have executive regulations, and we also developed guidelines related to these executive regulations. Also, we really could build up the recycling sector. When we started, there were almost no formal recyclers. Now we have up to 19 operating recyclers. And another impact is that we could really develop some educational programs that are soon going to be implemented in the country.
بالتعاون مع وزاره البيئه قدرنا دلوقتي يبقى في فوق ال 17 او 18 مصنع لتدوير المخلفات الالكترونيه. دي معناتها فرص عمل خضراء زياده في الدوله، دي معناتها عائد اقتصادي للدوله، دي معناتها حفاظ على المواد الثمينه مثل الذهب.
إعادة التدوير بتخلق 10 أضعاف فرص العمل عن الحرق أو الدفن. يعني طبعا حرق واحد فقط لا غير بيحرق الحاجة، أو واحد بيدفن. لكن أنا لو بعمل بقى فرز وتفكيك واستخراج معادن، دي 10 أضعاف فرص العمل.
The Sustainable Recycling Industries project is built on 4 main pillars. The first pillar is, of course, the policy, legislations, and the basic foundation of any project that aims at achieving results. The second pillar is the normative, and that covers the inspection and monitoring and evaluation of the industry and its operations. The third level is the business level, and that involves all stakeholders or all players in this level, like the informal sector, the formal recyclers, integrating the informal and the formal recyclers, the incubation and establishing small and new, innovative and creative businesses and small businesses through green operating entrepreneurs, and capacity building falls under this. And the fourth pillar, which is I think it's vital in this project, is the hazardous components that e-waste recycling handles, operates in, and tries to monitor and evaluate and avoid. And in fact, the Sustainable Recycling Industries project addresses this component as an opportunity to treat and operate hazardous fractions in a manner that is safe to the environment.
We've introduced the Ministry of Communications and Information Technology and the Ministry of Environment to the decision-making process, the legal framework, and the governance of the e-waste system in Switzerland by organizing study tours and meeting with the competent Swiss authorities and representatives of the Swiss compliance systems. The project contributed also to the development of the national e-waste and refurbishment curricula and training materials. SRI has supported the recycling sector to upgrade to best practice. This includes supporting informal recyclers to upgrade and join the formal industry.
احنا في المرحلة الثانية للمشروع. الحقيقة الممثل للحكومة المصرية في المشروع هي وزارة الاتصالات وتكنولوجيا المعلومات. لجنة تسيير المشروع فيها 5 وزارات مهمين جدا: وزارة البيئة، وزارة التجارة والصناعة، وزارة التعليم العالي، وزارة المالية. هذا بخلاف بأن رئاسة لجنة تسيير المشروع هو وزارة الاتصالات، ممثلة في نائب وزير وزارة الاتصالات وتكنولوجيا المعلومات.
مركز البيئة والتنمية للإقليم العربي وأوروبا هو الناشونال امبلمنتنج اورجانيزيشن أو الجانب المصري اللي بينفذ مشروع شري هنا في مصر.
المخلفات الإلكترونية منجم دهب في مصر، ومصر مؤهلة إنها مش مجرد فقط لا غير على المستوى الوطني، ولكن طبعاً تقدر تعمل نشاط لتدوير المخلفات الإلكترونية على المستوى الإقليمي، سواء في أفريقيا أو سواء الدول العربية، وخاصة في منطقة قناة السويس الاقتصادية.
Building the industry started by addressing the informal sector and motivating them to become formal. And by formal, we mean well-organized recyclers who are addressing and managing e-waste in a most safe and healthy environmental way, yet making profit and income out of this industry.
The association they are building now, Formal Recyclers Association.
إنشاء الجمعية التعاونية لتدوير المخلفات الإلكترونية والكهربائية والصلبة والسائلة. وفي الحقيقة يعني في رعاية كبيرة جدا من وزارة البيئة وجهاز تنظيم إدارة المخلفات للجمعية في سبيل إنجاح الأهداف بتاعتنا. بنحاول نشرك القطاع الانفورمال من خلال بروجكت هنعمله بالتعاون مع السداري والجانب السويسري.
قدرنا ننجح في تدريب العديد من الشركات الناشئة، وقدرنا ندخل شركات كتيرة من الاقتصاد الغير رسمي للاقتصاد الرسمي ومكملين.
احنا بنكولكت الماتيريالز بتاعتنا من الشركات الانترناشونال والمالتي ناشونالز اللي في مصر. اذا كان قابل لاعاده التدوير فاحنا بنستخدمه في اعاده التدوير، وفي حاجات بتبقى غير قابله لاعاده التدوير دي بنعمل لها اعدام بالطرق البيئيه.
طبعا احنا كجهاز تنظيم اداره مخلفات وصدر قانون جديد لتنظيم اداره المخلفات، ده قانون رقم 202 لسنه 2020، واللائحه التنفيذيه صدرت في 2022. ادانا ان انا ابقى الجهاز المخطط والمنظم والمراقب لعمليات اداره المخلفات او الاداره المتكامله للمخلف. فاحنا عن طريق المشاريع اللي كانت موجوده في جهاز شؤون البيئه وجهاز تنظيم اداره المخلفات او في وزاره البيئه ككل، والمشاريع الاخرى اللي موجوده زي في وزاره الاتصالات وتكنولوجيا المعلومات، ابتدينا ندي دعم للقطاع الغير رسمي. وبالفعل نجحنا في ان احنا نوصل ان احنا دلوقتي بدل كان عندنا مصنع واحد بقى عندي من اكتر من 20 مصنع لتدوير المخلفات الكهربائيه والالكترونيه. فكل برضو المصانع ديت وقفنا معاهم لغايه لما تحولوا من القطاع الغير رسمي لقطاع رسمي.
It had an impact on recyclers as producers or treaters of e-waste. It had an impact on students with the curriculum that we implemented in the e-waste management. It impacted the entrepreneurs with creative ideas. It had an impact and a lot of capacity building for governmental officials.
And I think in Egypt we were very successful in bringing all the different stakeholders together, the different ministries, also the recyclers, and we also work very closely with the Swiss embassy, and we really fostered the communication between the ministries and also between the ministries and the recyclers.
أنا حضرت تدريبات كتيرة ومن ضمنهم كان مشروع شريف. أعتقد يعني إن القطاع بتاع الإيوست يعني في التطور يعني.
Has not only brought a lot of ministries to the discussion table, but it also addressed a lot of different sectors.
من الحاجات اللي عملناها مع الجانب السويسري ونفعتنا في المشروع اللي فات ان احنا مع زملائنا وشركائنا في وزارة البيئة قدرنا نطلع قانون مسؤولية المنتج. يعني ده كان مهم جدا. هنشتغل مع الجانب السويسري عشان نشوف إمكانية التحصيل وإمكانية إدارة هذه الأموال لصالح التخلص الآمن من النفايات الإلكترونية والمخلفات الإلكترونية.
النظام دوت المفروض بيخلي أي منتج لمنتج كهربائي أو إلكتروني لازم يحط عليه ثمن التجميع بتاعه وإعادة التدوير والتخلص النهائي الآمن من الأجزاء الخطرة اللي فيه.
We hope that these efforts could continue because it will greatly benefit the industry on the practical, on the ground level. After laying the foundations, the effect and the impact of this industry will greatly benefit the country in its resources, efficiency in making more, generating income and job opportunities for a lot of stakeholders and players in this field of e-waste recycling management.
نأمل خيرا ان الفتره القادمه هيتم زياده اعداد العاملين في هذا المجال، هيتم وضع منظومه لجمع المخلفات الالكترونيه سواء من الهيئات الحكوميه، شركات، المنازل.
احنا نأمل ان احنا نبقى الهب او يعني المركز بتاع تدوير المخلفات الالكترونيه مثلا في افريقيا.
الفتره الجايه هتشهد مرحله جديده من التدريب ومن ان احنا ننشئ المركز الخاص باعاده تكوين او اعاده تدوير المنتجات ديت عشان زي ما قلت لحضرتك نطلع ب 10-20% منها.
Egypt is a good example how the Sustainable Industries Program works. At the beginning, you might think there's not lots of progress, but actually it comes as you go along the project. And it needs a lot of engagement and commitment by all stakeholders who are working on the program and who are supporting the program. So I'm pretty sure that in the next 2 years, we'll make a lot of progress and that we will achieve the objectives we have set.
We'll be presenting to you our journey of 10 years with the sustainable recycling industries, a journey over 2 phases of the project. And Mr. Matthias Schuleb, the Managing Director of WRF, World Resources Forum from Switzerland, will start with you. Please, so wanna go?
Thank you, Geda. Welcome, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. I have started this project, I think, 2011. Hossam reminds me always, so that's many, many years. And I've been many times to Cairo, to Egypt, and it was always a pleasure to be here. And I think the team and the country can be very proud to have created the impact we see today in this project. I would like to give you, since my role is not specifically bound to this project in Egypt only, it's about the global program, I would like to give you a little bit an overview how this program has developed and what's the rationale about this program. So who is moving the slides?
Yes.
You can give it to me, so that's easier. This one, yeah. So actually this marks more than 20 years. You know, we always talk about 10 years of implementation in Egypt, but actually it marks 20 years of engagement of the Swiss government by the State Secretariat of Economic Affairs in this topic, which is quite amazing. I think I wouldn't know any other bilateral organization, multilateral organization who actually engaged so long in this topic. So that's quite a commitment. We started with the e-waste, the Swiss e-waste program, as it was called at that time, that started already 2003. And at that time, we started with Asian countries supporting China, India, and also already on the African continent with South Africa. We later on added 2 other countries, Colombia and Peru, to this group. In 2013, then, the Sustainable Recycling Industries program started. We continued with Colombia and Peru, and you see actually these 2 countries, they stopped in 2023. So this program does not continue in these 2 countries anymore. And you also see the stretch or the length in these 2 countries is quite long. So we thought these countries are ripe actually in a way that our engagement is not necessary. There was a continuation of India at the beginning, but only the first phase of SRI. And at the end also South Africa joined the group of countries again. And then you see the 2 countries actually which were always in focus was Egypt and Ghana. I also want to mention that on global level we always had an engagement which was going beyond just the countries. So we were also member and a part of the foundation of the STEP, that's the Solving the E-Waste Problem initiative, that's a global initiative. Also RELAC is a similar initiative, but only in Latin America. We always had the idea of serving the global community of practice, very important. So also results developed in Egypt actually were presented in a way that they're also used elsewhere in the world. Very important because that's the kind of exchange and accelerating this knowledge, presenting our experience. We developed here together with our partners in Egypt, also to other partners in the world. You see there a line, ISO, IWA, that's ISO, you probably know, it's the International Standard Organization. IWA stands for International Workshop Agreement. We started this process to develop an ISO standard based on our experience with all these countries, also with SRI, and then it evolved into the ISO 59014. It's a circular economy standard, which is especially looking on circular economy issues in the electronics value chain, but not just, also for other waste types, and also for the informal sector. So that's an important standard. And we also had these more life cycle assessment-oriented activities, metrics and methods. Now, impact, it's also a story of how internationally, or we looked at what e-waste is and what challenges e-waste creates. And it starts with the impact we wanted to create started with a focus on improving the living conditions for the affected local partners or the local actors in the value chain. Also by reducing hazards and then a little bit of impact on strengthening the economic performance. In SRI, it changed a little bit. The focus became, of course, we didn't lose the focus on the social impact, but the focus became more, okay, e-waste is also an opportunity, a business opportunity. And that's why the impact changed. So the sustainable integration, participation of small, medium enterprises was the wording. And now in our phase, we are now, and we're closing now, is this that we create favorable framework conditions so that businesses can grow in a good environment and in a level playing field. And this is more or less how we developed, and this is the same in all countries, but with different focus in all countries. So we call this logical framework, and these are the outcomes, as we call it. So the overall objective of the program is one area is policy, so that we have adequate policy and legislative framework. The other area is normative, that's about standards, so we create a level playing field and everybody plays according to the same rules. The other one is that we also thought we need to support businesses, and we will hear about the activities which we had also in Egypt, so that we optimize sustainable value chains. And the fourth was that we thought, okay, if we all do that, we still have a problem sometimes with the problematic fractions, which is a key issue in e-waste management. And you see this favorable framework condition, you see some keywords, legislation, policy, norms and standards, control, audit, sound technology, connected value chains, etc. So this is all the kind of what we understand of favorable framework conditions. Now, this is also an interesting chart. You have to read it that way, that you see these bars, and the bars which are dotted on the left side, it's where, I mean, it's an estimation. This is not scientific sound developed. So where we started with this country, when we started, or where the countries were in their maturity, in these 4 different outcomes, when we started with SRI, where you see where the countries mentioned, this is what we think where we are now. And then you see where it should go, of course, to the right side. So maturity starts, okay, the system is more in an ad hoc, so nothing is really defined. That's level 1. The level 2 is establishing a baseline, so we actually understand more or less what's going on and we react to that fact. Level 3 is gearing up for improvement, so that's already that things start to be in place and that we improve the situation. Level 4 is probably what we all want to get for sure at one point. We have a fully functioning e-waste management system, and the level 5, now there's a little thing on top of it, it's actually that the continuation and improving the system. No? That's just a permanent improvement. Also Switzerland, who started in the 90s, actually, this is still a system which always needs improvement. No? That's clear. And you see, Egypt, I think we started probably at level 2. It was in policy area. There were some policies around, but we developed, of course, we contributed only to, there were a lot of local partners, so actually the ministries who also developed this themselves, we just contributed to it. So I think we're now around level 3 in normative, maybe a little bit behind of level 3, between level 2 and level 3. Business, I think there's still some professionalization needed, and it's also, I think that's also typical because policy normative is the framework conditions, and businesses actually, that they would step in when the framework conditions are right. Problematic fractions, this is more or less similar. You see one country which is way ahead, that's Colombia, but we, as you saw previously, we started Colombia much earlier, and that's also why we pulled out, or SECO decided to pull out in this country, because it was seemed to be, or was defined to be ripe, and that it's not needed this partnership anymore. I will give you now an example that you see a little bit how we actually, and you will hear about Egypt later, about Colombia, how we started there. So that's many years ago when the regulatory framework covered only 3 e-waste streams. We didn't have any technical standards in the normative area. The infrastructure for e-waste recycling, so the businesses, was underdeveloped, so there were only very few companies, or 2 or 3 companies active. Collections rates were below 5%, and existing e-waste regulations still lacked adopting guidance for recyclers for the treatment of hazardous fractions. And these then were the milestones where we went through in these 10 years. So the start of the SHRI project was 2013. We had a law there, as I said, only covering 3 e-waste fractions. In 2017, we actually developed this national policy which defined the strategy of the countries how to actually tackle this in detail. No? And this was very important. I think each country needs a policy or strategy on national level which defines commitments, responsibility. 2020, we had the implementation of national technical standards, and we also had first registers, producers and importers, legal obligations, and you see on top there is like a certificate of a recycler who is actually certified according to this standard. And 2023 we closed the project, and we actually, there was another study just there we published. And you see a little bit how it develops, no? The gray bars, these are the amount of e-waste processed. So it increased from 2,000 tons about to 15,000 tons until 2022. And of course, as I said, this is not solely because of we had a program there. It's always we gave a contribution, but I believe we gave an important contribution with the program. The rate of formal recycling was almost 0 at the beginning, and it increased to 12%. The number of authorized recyclers, actually, that's where you see, the framework conditions are very important. We had a few formalized recyclers, we had 80 at the end. So this is really, you see, an industry is building up, no? And operation collection management system, so this take-back system, this is the EPR, which is actually taking effect. So you actually had quite a few take-back systems and collection system at the end. So why do we think we have created an impact in this country? We have a specific e-waste legislation, we have a committed government partner, take-back obligation based on extended producer responsibility. We think EPR is very important, and I know that Egypt is actually heading this way as well and has made a lot of progress in this regard. Skilled municipal administration and implemented enforcement processes. Legislation is not really relevant if you don't have enforcement processes in place and people who actually know how to implement it. Then operational take-back schemes, committed industry. So the producers are on board, importers are on board, we have associations, we have organized the industry, or an industry is starting to organize itself, taking their responsibility. National conformity assessment schemes, so that we have these schemes in place, including their standards, there's audit processes. We also have, as we'll hear later, done a lot in this country, ensuring quality and level playing field. Then we have also an organized recyclers through associations as well. This is something which has happened in this country. And we have government and industry-led campaigns creating awareness for the general public. These are the results. Of course, also when you have partnered with a country for 10 years, there are still some key challenges remaining. These are just a few. Also in Colombia, we have still a high level of informality in the sector. Actually, our exit strategy, as we call it, included that we provided with an informal sector strategy. but of course that needs to be implemented now by the government. Then also this circular economy was a topic. I think this appeared some years ago, so addressing this e-waste issue in a more comprehensive and holistic way, not just thinking of the end-of-pipe solutions. And the country also came up with a strategy on circular economy. I think this is also quite a topic in Egypt, as I understand. Public awareness is still low. This is a continuous challenge for each country, even in Switzerland. This is just something take-back system, governments, and all the players have to work on permanently. Okay, thank you very much.
Now, since we've illustrated that media-wise, we'd like to speak about our journey. I'll be presenting it in cooperation with Esther, my partner in crime for the past 5 years. And we'll be telling you, giving you an idea of how we started, why we started, and what have we achieved, and the challenges that we faced. Let me start with the country context of Shri before Shri. Actually, why Egypt needed Shri, because in the e-waste 10 years ago was not an issue. It was not, nobody knew that mobile phones, laptops could contain precious metals, and it was not on the agenda or on the horizon or in the education of people. That's why from the governance point of view, we need a comprehensive regulatory framework to govern e-waste. It was non-existent, or it was not on the agenda. We did not, of course, have an extended producer responsibility concept, or even the idea of that we needed that, nor anybody, as I said, was aware of the components of laptops, mobile phones, and the precious resources that we have, the urban mining, as we call it. On the and there were, of course, given that we had no standards, we had no guidelines, there was the process of collecting, sorting, dismantling was not there. And as a business environment, the informal sector 10 years ago or before Shri was dominating. We had the Rubabekia guy collecting all sorts of garbage, and for most people, the e-waste was maybe another source of garbage, or maybe could be left at home, guided emotionally with the first mobile somebody had, or the first gift, or the first laptop. So and in the absence of this standardization and classification, treatment, and a regulatory framework, Shri had a very good opportunity to start actually the whole industry. So the first phase of Shri 1 of the Sustainable Recycling Industries started in 2016. It was launched. There were a lot of discussions, and there were a lot of preparations before that since 2011. And the history is with Hussein, that's when they started discussing the sustainable recycling industries, but it was officially launched in 2016. The Swiss government was represented by the Swiss Embassy, and the Egyptian government represented by the Ministry of Communication and Information Technology. And it was implemented by Sidari in Egypt, and formerly DSS in the first phase was called SOFIS. Now it's a DSS, just a change of name. Our goal, given the need for that, was to enable a framework condition for sustainable development of an e-waste sector and an e-waste industry. Our focus area in the project were actually these 4 pillars. Of course, policy to tackle the legal and framework, the normative or conformity assessment system to be able to monitor, evaluate, and guide the treatment process. And the business support was to support whether recyclers, or to support the merging of entrepreneurs, to support the whole business model of e-waste. And finally, the last pillar was solutions, because as precious metals, as resources that we have in these equipment, we also have hazardous fractions that we need to treat and we need to find solutions for. And we'll be talking about that later, because we found even an income-generating solution for it. Capacity building was, maybe it was not a pillar, but it was cross-cutting all these pillars. And not a pillar, I mean, it was an essential component in all our pillars, because without capacity building, you cannot advance. Okay, this is the implementation milestones, or our path, or our milestones in terms of years of what happened. As I started saying, we launched in 2016. In 2017, we started, actually from 2016 to 2017, we did a lot of baseline assessments that I'll be taking you through it. 2020, that was the launch of the new Law 202 for 2020 that regulated e-waste and actually defined e-waste not only as a hazardous waste, but as a hazardous with special circumstances, which through the components will reflect how this helped the e-waste industry. In 2021, we started implementation of the EPR. Of course, it was preceded by a lot of studies and a lot of research, but that was 2021 was the marking of the start. 2022, the executive regulations for the Law 202 for 2020 was formulated and published, actually even in February 2022. 2023 was the former recycling facilities increased. When we started in 2016, there was only one former recycler. By 2023, we actually have at least 27 recyclers, former recyclers. And when I say formal recyclers, I mean recyclers who are certified by the Ministry of Environment, not only with a commercial registry, but they're monitored and audited by the Ministry and the Ministry of Environment and Ministry of Industry, actually. In 2023, that was the launch of the Eco Green Waste Management. It's an NGO, and this NGO was established to bridge the gap between the formal and informal recyclers. Again, we'll be taking you through more details. 2025 is the end of the journey. Unfortunately, the end of the sustainable recycling industries will end by the end of June. And as I said, it's an end of a very long journey, but I hope beginning of another. Okay. When I told you about the baseline studies, and that's how we started in 2016, because without knowledge, yes, one by one, go ahead, I know. Without knowledge, without awareness, without laying the facts and mapping the industry, we would not have been able to advance on strong basis. So these are examples of the baseline assessment we did on extended producer responsibility, what was the status and what we need to do on former recyclers, mapping of the informal sector, assessments on dismantling, on the fractions, on entrepreneurship, and how can we develop that. And actually the law, which we found governs all sectors, but they were just scattered across ministries. The first pillar, as I said, is the policy component, the regulatory framework, and what governs the whole, any industry to start. The policy and regulations, there was a growing e-waste volumes given the digitalization and the move and the new era of moving into very high technology. So growing e-waste, of course, that would pose in treatment. I mean, it would if it's done through the informal cycle without awareness, without the safe handling and treatment, it would pose as a health issue, and actually it will waste our economic situation, because we'd be throwing a lot of resources, and given that we consider e-waste and urban mining, because you recycle and extract a lot of precious metals, so that would affect definitely our economic situation. The lack of regulation, which fragmented from the informal practices, and the minimal formal capacity, awareness, and techniques that were not available at the time, and the update and untapped potential in the circular economy and ICT sectors. And at that time, because there was no awareness about e-waste and what happens in that industry, or how beneficial it is economically and health-wise and socially, we needed a structured, sustainable approach to do that. And that's an introduction to why we needed the policy. So our goals under this pillar was to establish a functional e-waste industry rooted in the national policy in Egypt to ensure sustainability, to have institutional frameworks, and to introduce the international best practices for the knowledge of the country. Our second goal was definitely to protect health and the environment, because this was crucial, and the treatment of hazardous fraction that definitely directly affects health and the environment. Also to create economic opportunities, because the e-waste is an industry that's income generating, and evidence-based is that the number of recyclers increased, and even we'll be speaking about hazardous solution and how they are income generating. Empowering national institutions like Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Communication, Information Technology, WEMRA, to lead the sector with high capacity, with great knowledge, and on strong policy basis. And promote, of course, circularity, which we're all aiming for, and not wasting our precious resources. This is a simple figure that shows how e-waste addresses circular economy in the country. What did we achieve in policy? We achieved a national policy that addressed e-waste. The law 1527 was streamlined the licensing for former recyclers. The executive regulations 722 in 2022, based on the law 2020 for 2020. The EPR implementation options for Egypt that were published in 2021 that reflected and laid a number of scenarios for the government to adopt in implementing the extended producer responsibility. The EPR fee calculation, we did a number of studies and a number of consultation sessions and introduced how this fee was calculated. And last but not least, the Ministry of Environment issued the guidance to the Governmental Services Agency, Ministry of Finance, to limit tenders to tendering of governmental equipment to certified recyclers. That was a very great success, because government tenders and government equipment were large in quantities, and limiting them to former recyclers ensures, of course, social, economic, and health aspects. We had under the policy and regulatory framework, actually, we had a lot of stakeholder consultation process, because SHRI actually is based and build on a multi-stakeholder approach in all their components and all their work. But on policy, it was essential for us to engage all stakeholders and all players, whether as in awareness stage, in consultation, or in implementation. So the EPR system consultation meetings, it was hosted by WEMRA and SIDARI, and it was actually attended by all our stakeholders, whether from the ministries, private sector, customs department in the ministry, recyclers, any player in the field of e-waste. And we did a lot of these consultation sessions before we reached the final scenario and final fee calculation method. Stakeholders' inputs gathered to support EPR launch, and because we needed their consent, we needed their awareness, we needed them to be all on the same wavelength of what we need to do, the importance of the extended producer responsibility, and how it would benefit those players or those stakeholders, whether it's the government, whether it's the recyclers, or the concept of the extended producer responsibility and how beneficiary it is. We had meetings regarding the curriculum. We wanted to institutionalize the curriculum in our schools to maintain or to ensure sustainability of information and education of e-waste in the country. And that's what caused us to have a lot of consultation sessions, whether with the Ministry of Higher Education, vocational schools, and to be able to institutionalize the curriculum. I can never say it properly. Recyclers meetings, we had a lot of consultations to be able to establish a non-governmental organization, the EGWM, and I see Ahmed Salem smiling from ear to ear. We did this, and this was actually a great achievement because I think it brought all the recyclers on the same table, and it bridged the gap between the formal and informal recyclers. Okay, what is the status now? We noticed, and that was the cause of this report. When you come to search about e-waste status in Egypt, you would hardly find anything. Or if you find any information, it's basically from long ago. It doesn't state what policies are there, what rules are there. It doesn't give you an indication of what's happening or what is the e-waste status in Egypt. So we decided to cover this and raise the awareness of anybody searching for the e-waste status in Egypt. And we developed this e-waste status report, which is going to be, it is published, but it needs to be better spread. And through this paper, through this report, we are addressing the rising challenge of how e-waste is fast growing in the country, and why, because of digital transformation, of course, and how Egypt struggled before with the informal sector and their dominance, and how it was limited. However, and that's what's the status that's currently when we researched the internet was there. And what happened in that area. We also addressed the regulatory framework, the new law 202 for 2020, and what it covers, the executive regulations, and that's under the policy, of course, and the extended producer responsibility concept, and the status right now in Egypt. The institutionalization of the ecosystem, and that's led by the Ministry of Environment and WEMRA, with growing private sector and startup involvement in this e-waste. We addressed this in the report also and stated the current status and our path forward and what Egypt intends to do in the e-waste sector and industry. I think I will rest here and give them a break from my voice, and we'll continue with Esther.
So the second focus area was conformity assessment system. And why is this important? First of all, a technical standard ensures safe and environmentally sound processes and also helps to create a level playing field for all the formal recyclers. And then it also allows for a consistent and a structured evaluation of the performance of these recyclers, and it's a very important basis for EPR, because if there is a money flow that is foreseen to pay for services of the recyclers, of course there also has to be a certain monitoring and control. To come to the conformity assessment system that we are proposing now, that was a very iterative approach in close collaboration with the Ministry of Environment and then also the Ministry of Industry. We started with the mapping of the Egyptian legislation and compared it to a European standard that we have. It used to be Vilabex, now it's Senelec. And based on that, we created the first checklist, and we conducted first pilot audits together with a training that we did for 20 auditors of the Central Department for Inspection and Environmental Conformity of the Ministry of Environment. Based on these documents and also together with other documents produced by the Ministry of Environment, we then developed the technical standard and updated this checklist and had another round of trainings with auditors from VEMRA, from EEAA, IDA, and also the private sector. We again conducted pilot audits, so in the end we could finalize a technical standard, an audit report, and the handbook, and these are now the final documents that we are able to hand over to the Egyptian system. So you have here, that doesn't work, so the first one is the technical standard, then you see the audit report, extended checklist, and the handbook that explains and guidelines the handling. And this is now all translated to Arabic and ready for implementation. In addition to sustain and institutionalize these processes, we proposed how this could now be implemented into an Egyptian conformity assessment body, and also how the selection, the training, and the establishment of a pool of certified technical WEEE auditors could work. Also, based on a request from the Ministry of Environment, we conducted specialized conformity assessments, and we evaluated and assessed 12 companies here in Egypt that are involved in recycling, recovery, and refining. This was conducted by an expert from Singapore, and it was a focus on the quality and the efficiency of the metal extraction, and also on the health, safety, and the environmental measures taken by the companies. For the third focus area, when SRI started, as we have heard now many times, the recycling sector was only emerging, and it was in need of support for awareness raising and capacity building for the safe handling of e-waste. Then for startup aid for new companies to facilitate the organization and the interaction between all these different emerging recycling companies, but also then between the companies and the governmental institutions, and to ensure their participation in the stakeholder dialogue, for example, regarding the EPR system. We conducted 2 incubation programs. There was eHorda 1 in 2017 and eHorda 2 in 23-24. The first one was organized by Chemonics and InnoVentures, where we trained 13 entrepreneurs. We supported 4 SMEs, and in the end, 2 startups were registered. In the second one, that was organized and hosted by ERI, with 45 participants formed in 9 teams, and in the end we selected 3 startups that we could launch. And the incubator training included core training on entrepreneurship, technical training on e-waste management, prototyping support, network with the industrial community, and mentorship. We also developed various curricula, one on e-waste management, a second one on refurbishing. The refurbishment curriculum was then implemented and institutionalized in WEEE ICT vocational schools, and we held TOT sessions for over 20 professors throughout the year 24 and 25, and the curriculum includes theoretical and practical training on battery and printed circuit board refurbishment. To enable the formal sector, we supported the creation of the Eco Green Waste Management Association. This association has now already 27 members. We provided some support for the startup of this association. We gave legal guidance, seed funding, and mentorship. We also supported some activities such as participation in Expo in Germany and Italy, or a health and safety training that they could conduct for 27 participants. And we supported their idea to develop an e-waste exchange platform that was conceptualized in 24 and tested and is now soon to be launched. It's a digital user phase, and it is planned to have that is complemented by physical collection points, and it should connect households, the informal sector, and the formal recyclers. And also the Eco Green Waste Management Association, which has a very nice website. It's planned that all the SRI content that should, for Egypt, should move to this website. Finally, in the hazardous fraction and problematic waste focus area, we did various studies. First of all, an assessment of problematic fractions arising from WEEE in Egypt. Based on that, we did an opportunity study and presented what solutions there are to tackle these problematic fractions. And this then led to a feasibility study for concrete solutions within and outside of Egypt, how to treat lithium-ion batteries and plastics with brominated flame retardants. And then in the end, to complement a bit the scope of the SRI, which was very focused on ICT only, we also made a study on the end-of-life assessment of cooling appliances in Egypt. Cooling appliances are also equipment very widely used in Egypt, which can have a very important environmental impact, and we wanted to assess what is their fate at the end of life and how this could be possibly improved. I hand over again.
Really fast. As I mentioned earlier, that capacity building is a cross-cutting, important, maybe it's not a pillar, but I consider it a pillar in our SRI project. And the capacity building here, we took it really seriously. We covered actually all stakeholders and all players in this e-waste field. Overall, we had 24 sessions that targeted 400 participants in total. We did the international exposure part of the capacity building were basically made out of field studies, study tours, field trips. We covered Switzerland, Germany, Belgium. Through the NGO, we sent the recyclers to expos in Germany and Italy to be able to meet other international recyclers, gain better experiences, and maybe have great deals, business deals with them. We actually included in the capacity building at the SRI one, when we were starting the awareness program, the capacity building for treatment and collection and handling of e-waste, we included the informal sector in our training. We had the field studies and international exposure covered not only recyclers but also high-level governmental staff or governmental authority and delegations. And this was actually, we found it was very important to gain their commitment from high-level governmental authorities and introduced to them, and which I, at that time, was an eye-opening to what the e-waste industry could cover and how and all an overall look of the industry. On the national level, we had a lot of training, as I said, whether in the SHRI Phase 1 or SHRI Phase 2, that covered, it covered auditors, it covered recyclers. We had practical training in their facilities through international experts to show them the proper treatment and handling of e-waste upon dismantling. The national training covered PAT, PP technologies, audit methods and standards, health and safety, environmental registry compliance, and enhanced government capacity on policy design. So, as I said, as much as we involved all stakeholders in discussions, we also covered their awareness and education and capacity building part. What was the overall impact? I mean, we had to reflect and know what happened in SHRI and whether it was a successful, effective project. We had some KPIs, and the overall impact in terms of formal waste that we processed. When we started in 2016, as I told you, there was one recycler, and approximately 500 tons only of e-waste was covered at the time. We're still trying to increase that, but today we cover 6,800 tons. And this is the amount that is assessed through just former recyclers. Again, one recycler in 2016, now we have at least 27 recyclers. And the workforce, as I said, I'm sure Esther spoke about that job opportunities and opening job opportunities for workers, labor, and entrepreneurs. Formal workforce in former recyclers alone, they were 25 in 2016. Now we have 350. And here we're talking about the 350, we're talking about permanent workers in the recyclers. There are temporary workers, so 350 is not indicative actually, but at least this is the permanent workforce. This little figure on the left is what e-waste looked like before SHRI, and on the right, under the talking SGP Sidari, is what e-waste former recyclers' factories look like now. Of course, nevertheless, we had reflections, lessons, and we learned a lot from this project. We learned about the EPR challenges that were actually linked to the success of the newly issued decree for single-use plastic bags, EPR single-use plastic bags decree. The EPR for e-waste follows the success, hopefully, of an issued decree. We learned about the informal integration and how is it possible to bridge the gap between the formal and informal recyclers through this NGO. The curriculum delivery was actually a challenge. We wanted to have sustainability of education, sustainability of the flow of information and education to continue beyond the time of SHRI and after the end of the journey. So that was a challenge that we faced and was solved actually through the multi-stakeholder approach and involving the Ministry of Higher Education, Ministry and the Ministry of Communication Information Technology, who supported us in institutionalizing the curriculum. Finally, I said the word properly, institutionalizing in the vocational schools that follows or under the umbrella of the ministry. The continued ministry coordination was actually a very, I would say, a success in this project, bringing together so many ministries together on the same table, coordinating and cooperating was impressive. And of course, the documentation that we're leaving behind SHRI of the EPR fee, the EPR scenarios, the curriculum, the guidelines, the executive regulations. We have so many reports and documents that we'll be leaving behind the end of this journey. These are our partners, and were deeply appreciative of their efforts and their help and support during the lifetime of Shri. Of course, the Ministry of Communication and Information Technology, not only as the signatory with the Swiss government, but honestly, in all our activities, they supported us greatly and made Shri a little bit easier. Not very easy, but just a little bit easier. Ministry of Environment, of course, and WEMRA. Unfortunately, they left for other commitments, but they did support us. WEMRA actually is a beneficiary of a lot of our activities, such as the auditing, the conformity, the APR, of course, and policy, the guidelines, the executive regulations. So, but they also did support us. And the ERI, Dr. Shireen, she'll be speaking to us, and she's attending. Hopefully she can hear me now online. The Electronic Research Institute actually developed the refurbishment part of the curriculum of the e-waste management, and she incubated the entrepreneurs and was in charge of EHORD 2. Of course, most important and the reason for the Shri project are the funding and implementing partners, starting with SECO, the Swiss government, the Swiss embassy, EMPA, World Resources Forum, and our implementing partner in crime, DSS, formerly known as SOFIS. All these people came together to make me stand here today before you all and speak about our success and our achievements, our challenges in the sustainable recycling industries. It's a very emotional moment for me because after 10 years, after actually when I first started with Sidari, I started on Shri and it's ending now. The two pillars of Egypt, the pyramids, and what's the name of the mountain? I'm sorry. Matterhorn. Did I say it right? They came together to bring Shri here, and I hope we gave you a very good idea. You learned about our challenges, our success, our journey, and we're honored to have you here.